My name is Leah. I am 31 years old and I live in Savannah, Georgia. After nearly 7 years together, my boyfriend Adam, who's 32, got down on one knee and proposed on a warm spring afternoon, right in our tiny kitchen. He didn't say much, just simply, "I want dinners with you for the rest of my life." And without hesitation, I said yes. Adam isn't flashy. He's genuine, kind, and always knows how to make me feel safe no matter how chaotic the world gets. We've been through it all, moving, job losses, losing loved ones. But I never imagined the biggest challenge would come from my own family. It might sound unbelievable, but from the moment I announced our engagement, my mother and my half-sister, Brooklyn, turned what should have been the happiest time of my life into a bitter spectacle. Brooklyn is 26 now, 5 years younger than me, but I've known since we were kids that there was never such a thing as sisterhood between us. My mom remarried when I was 6. Brooklyn is her daughter with her new husband, a man praised by his family for being polished and well-dressed, but as emotionally distant as stone. We lived in the same house for almost 20 years, but between me and Brooklyn, there was always an invisible wall, built from my mom's blatant favoritism and Brooklyn's constant jealousy. Since elementary school, Brooklyn couldn't stand it when I was praised for being smart or well-behaved. She once ripped up my test paper because the teacher put a gold star on it. As we got older, the jealousy only got more subtle, but never went away. I got a scholarship to a state university. Brooklyn dropped out of a junior college program to become a part-time influencer, always complaining about being broke while never letting go of her phone. I never thought getting engaged would be the last straw for Brooklyn, but it was. Just hours after I posted a picture of the ring on Instagram, my mother called. Not to congratulate me, not to ask about the date. Her voice was serious, like I'd done something terribly wrong. "Brooklyn's going to be really upset. She just broke up with Cody last week. You shouldn't be flaunting this." I stood frozen in the kitchen. Flaunting? I was just sharing a happy moment after 7 years of waiting. But I said nothing. I didn't push back. I was used to making room for Brooklyn, whether that meant attention, emotion, or now, even my future. A few weeks later, Brooklyn posted a vague status about maybe getting engaged. Her new boyfriend, a guy named Zane who none of us had met, had moved in with her after less than a month. I didn't comment. I knew better. But 4 months later, they got married. And it fell apart just 8 weeks in. I didn't feel glad when I heard Zane had cheated on her with her best friend. I genuinely felt bad. Even though Brooklyn never saw me as her sister, I'd once hoped that maybe, someday, we could figure out how to coexist. But what I didn't expect was that after her rushed divorce, Brooklyn and my mother quietly started blaming me. And worse, they weren't going to stop at blame. I thought maybe things would calm down after Brooklyn's divorce. I kept moving forward with wedding planning, choosing flowers, trying on dresses, finalizing the menu. Our wedding date was set for early March, just 3 months away. But I was wrong. One Wednesday evening, while I was at Adam's house, I got a call from my mom. Her voice was strangely soft, almost fake. "Are you free, honey? I need to talk to you for a minute." I stepped out to the balcony. It was cold, but I needed the space. After a few pleasantries, she got straight to the point. "Leah, I've been thinking a lot, and I feel like you should reconsider the wedding in March." I narrowed my eyes. "Reconsider what exactly?" "Brooklyn is still hurting. She hasn't been able to sleep through the night since the court hearing. If you go through with a big event like this, I'm afraid it'll break her even more." I clenched my phone. "You're saying I should cancel my wedding?" She sighed, drawn out like she was stating something everyone should already agree with. "Not cancel entirely, but maybe keep it simple, more private. A small ceremony in a church with just close family. No need for a fancy venue, live music, or imported wine." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'd spent almost a year planning this day, Dozens of emails, hundreds of tiny decisions. And now my mother, the same woman who once said, "I'll support whatever you choose," was asking me to downsize the most important day of my life because of Brooklyn? I spoke slowly, carefully, as if holding back a tide. "Mom, we've already paid deposits. For the flowers, the cake, the venue, the band. None of it is refundable. I can't just reduce it to a small church event now." My mom didn't flinch. Her tone sharpened, as if I were the one being unreasonable. "Money can be replaced, Leah. But family love? You can't buy that back. Do you know Brooklyn cries every time she sees a wedding dress or a save the day? As her sister, you should understand and avoid pouring salt on her wounds." I was speechless. For the first time in my life, it hit me. My mother didn't see my wedding as a celebration. She saw it as a threat to Brooklyn's emotional stability, and if she had to choose, she would choose Brooklyn. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "So what do you want me to do? Apologize because I'm in love and loved back? Wait for Brooklyn to feel better before I'm allowed to be happy?" My mother went silent for a beat, then responded coolly, "If you truly love this family, you'll know what you need to do." The call ended, leaving a tight knot in my chest. Adam stepped out to the balcony, saw my pale face, and gently asked what happened. I replied quietly, "My mom wants me to postpone the wedding." He didn't ask for more. He just squeezed my hand and said, "This is our wedding. No one else gets to turn it into something it's not." I nodded. But deep down I knew this was just the beginning. And my mom? She wasn't the kind to stop after just one call. I thought my mom would go quiet after that phone call. But just 2 days later, Brooklyn started texting me. Non-stop, relentless, and manipulative, like a string of emotional bait. "Hope you're enjoying your wedding plans. Some of us are just trying to crawl out of the wreckage." A few hours later, "Some wounds don't heal just because someone pretends to be happy in front of them." I stayed silent, but the more silent I stayed, the more she escalated. The next message wasn't subtle anymore. "You've always been the one everyone loves, praises. And me? People only remember me when I fall apart. You must enjoy that." I handed the phone to Adam. He looked at me, jaw tight. "She's trying to make you the villain in her own life story." I knew that, but what I didn't expect was Brooklyn didn't stop at just texting. One Monday afternoon, right after Adam got home from work, he received a call from an unknown number. He didn't answer. The caller rang 3 times. Finally, he picked up and stood frozen in the kitchen for almost 3 minutes. When he hung up, his face was stone cold. "It was your mom." I turned sharply. "She called you. What for?" Adam sighed. "She said she wanted to talk about Brooklyn. She told me you were being stubborn and that if I were a thoughtful man, I'd convince you to have a simpler, private wedding. She added, real men don't need to show off." I stood still, the feeling of having my own mother call my fiancé behind my back as if I were some disobedient teenager set my chest on fire. I'm not 18 anymore, being forced to cancel summer classes to babysit Brooklyn. I've grown up, and she doesn't get to control this. Adam placed a hand gently on my shoulder. "We're not changing anything, but I think you should brace yourself for whatever's next." 3 days later, my cousin Kaylee called. "You need to hear this. Brooklyn's been telling people that you purposely chose March to hurt her." I froze. "What? The wedding date was set last year." "I know, but she's saying you timed it exactly 4 months after her divorce to throw a lavish party, that you're fully aware how emotionally fragile people are after a breakup, and still chose to rub it in?" I sank into the couch. She actually believes that? Think. She needs someone to blame. And you're a convenient target. I knew Kaylee wasn't making this up. And I also knew Brooklyn well enough to believe she'd craft a distorted story and convince herself it was real. Worse yet, some people started buying it. My aunt, my mom's younger sister, called and gently asked if I could postpone the wedding to fall so things could settle. A college friend messaged saying, even a small celebration doesn't take away the meaning of love, and an old coworker of my mom's left a comment under my wedding dress fitting photo. Hope everyone heals before someone else throws salt on the wound. No one asked if I was okay, being quietly ostracized by my own mother and sister. No one asked if it hurt to have my wedding labeled cruel. I had become the symbol of everything Brooklyn didn't have, and my mother, as always, chose to stand with her. That night, I sat in the living room, wedding invitations scattered across the coffee table. Adam walked over, picked one up, and looked at me. I know this is hard, but maybe it's time you drew a line. That Christmas, I had hoped for peace, just for one night. The family dinner was at my Aunt Carol's house, just outside Augusta, where we all usually gathered for the holidays. Adam and I arrived early, carrying wine and homemade gingerbread cookies. I knew my mom and Brooklyn would be there, but I hoped, foolishly, that the holiday spirit would calm them. I was wrong. The moment we stepped in, Brooklyn wouldn't even look at me. My mom gave Adam a half-hearted hug and quickly turned to chat with some great aunt. I took a deep breath. It's fine, just stay respectful, I reminded myself. Things were going smoothly until I was in the kitchen chatting with some cousins about cake flavors. I had just mentioned lemon mousse when Brooklyn suddenly stood up, shoved her chair back, and said in a trembling voice, loud enough for the whole room, "You know what, Leah? Some of us are struggling to breathe every day while you ramble on about your wedding like it's your personal movie premiere." The room froze. I turned slowly, keeping my tone calm. I didn't mean anything by it, I was just answering their question. Brooklyn stepped right into the center of the living room, eyes brimming with tears. But I could tell right away, this wasn't grief, it was performance. You've taken everything from me. The attention, the love, and now even the ability to feel safe in a room full of people. Every word you say cuts deeper, Leah. But you don't care, do you? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mom rushed over to wrap Brooklyn in her arms, rubbing her back like a child who just got scolded. Then she turned to me with a look of disappointment. Do you really need to flaunt everything? I told you, Brooklyn isn't okay. Why can't you tone things down a little? I stood there in silence. Then slowly, I placed my wine glass on the table. I've been quiet long enough. I turned to face Brooklyn, looked her straight in the eyes. You're hurting? Then hurt with dignity. Don't drag an entire room into your meltdown. You chose the wrong man. You chose to get married after 3 months. You chose to post wedding photos every day like a personal PR campaign. And now, you choose to blame me for all of it? Brooklyn turned pale. But I wasn't done. And Mom, I turned to my mother, my voice starting to shake with anger. This isn't empathy anymore. This is enabling. It's blind favoritism. It's staying silent when one person attacks another. And now, joining in. A heavy silence swept across the room. No one said a word, no nervous laughter. Even the Christmas music had stopped. I took a deep breath and said clearly, firmly, you and Brooklyn are no longer invited to my wedding. My mother shot up from her seat. What did you just say? I've had enough. I don't want people at the most important day of my life who are secretly hoping it falls apart. I'm not getting married to prove anything to Brooklyn. I'm marrying Adam because I love him, and I don't need your permission to be happy. Adam stood beside me, quietly took my hand, and we walked out, into the cold night that, with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. That evening, I wrote a short email. I sent it to my mom and Brooklyn. The subject line was simple: wedding update. Body of the email: based on everything that has happened and how the two of you have behaved throughout this process, I regret to inform you that you will not be on the guest list for my wedding. This is not a spur-of-the-moment decision. This is a necessary boundary to protect myself and the life I'm building. I hit send, no tears, no hesitation. This time, it was me I chose. Less than 12 hours after I sent the email, I received my first response. A long, drawn-out email from my mom. Subject line, "You're tearing this family apart." She wrote, "Leah, I truly can't believe how cold you've become. I raised you with nothing but love, and now, over a simple misunderstanding, you've cast me out of the most important day of your life? Brooklyn has been through a major shock. If you can't show compassion, the least you could offer is kindness. Do you even care that she cried all night? Or is that no longer important to you? Seems like you've chosen romance over blood." Reading each line felt like being pricked by 1,000 tiny needles. Not one word acknowledged what I'd endured. Not one sentence admitted how Brooklyn had slandered me. It was all about my sister's feelings. And somehow, I was still to blame. Before I could even exhale, a second email came in. This one, from Brooklyn. Just 3 furious lines. "You're petty. You used your wedding to exclude me, to humiliate me one final time. I hope you enjoy your victory. But don't forget, family never forgets betrayal." I let out a small laugh, not from amusement but sheer disbelief. They called me the betrayer when I'd been cornered for months. The next 3 days were a flood of calls, texts, and vague social media posts from people who had previously claimed to be neutral. My Uncle John called, voice harsh. "Couldn't you have handled this more gently? This is family. You've made your mother cry." A cousin I hadn't spoken to in over 2 years messaged. "I heard Leah didn't invite her own mom to her wedding. That's just wrong. No matter what she's done, she's still your mother." I let the silence speak. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I'd already said more than enough. Clearly, they were only hearing what they wanted to hear. From Brooklyn and my mom. Luckily, not everyone turned their back on me. That afternoon, while I was reorganizing the wedding invitation table and wondering if I'd gone too far, my phone rang. It was Aunt Valerie, my dad's younger sister. I wasn't sure if she'd heard what happened, but the moment I picked up, she spoke first. "You finally did the right thing. I know how much you've endured. Leah, the whole family sees it. But most stay quiet to avoid conflict. You stood up." I couldn't hold back the tears. That same evening, Megan, my closest cousin since high school, also called. Her voice was calm but firm. "Leah, you did the right thing. I've watched Brooklyn play the victim for years. Maybe now people will finally start seeing the truth." And like a quiet ripple, support began to surface from the most unexpected places. An old friend of my dad's messaged, "I'd be proud to see you standing up for your happiness like this." A distant aunt from another state sent a handwritten note with a wedding card. "Real family is made up of those who respect you." Even though the cruel words from my mom and Brooklyn kept coming, I stayed silent. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain. That night, Adam and I sat together, hand in hand, looking over the new guest list. Smaller, warmer. And finally, it felt like this wedding was truly mine. I had assumed that after being removed from the guest list, Brooklyn would at least keep her distance. But once again, I gave her too much credit. About a week after the dramatic Christmas dinner, Adam and I were in the living room reviewing our wedding vendor checklist. I had just stepped out to make tea when his phone rang. When I came back, he was holding the phone, face tense. "Who is it?" I asked, setting down my cup. Adam handed me the phone. The screen showed a string of texts. From Brooklyn, "I know I probably shouldn't bother you, but I really need someone to talk to. I don't understand why Leah's being so cold. I feel like the whole family has turned against me. You're the only one I feel like I can talk to without judgment." A chill ran down my spine. Adam tilted his head toward me. "Are you okay?" I didn't answer, I just held out my hand. "Let me see all the messages." He opened the full thread. Brooklyn hadn't just sent one message out of weakness. She had been texting him every day. Sometimes early in the morning, sometimes nearly at midnight, always filled with emotional manipulation and subtle undertones. One message even read, "Have you ever wondered if things had gone differently, maybe you and I could have been something?" It felt like someone had slapped me across the face. Adam's tone hardened. I never responded. I knew something was off from the very first message. "But I thought you should see this." I took a deep breath, my chest burning. Not from jealousy, but from sheer disrespect. Brooklyn wasn't just trying to tarnish my reputation anymore. She was now trying to hijack my relationship, my life, out of envy. "Take screenshots of everything for me," I said, my voice calm in a way that almost scared me. Adam nodded. Within minutes, the entire conversation was saved to my phone. I didn't text Brooklyn. I didn't call my mom. I was far too familiar with their strike first, play innocent later routine. Instead, I sent a short email to the close relatives who had seen everything from the beginning and still chose to stand by the truth. Subject: I need to clarify something. Body: I've tried to remain silent to avoid further conflict, but this has gone too far. Attached are screenshots from Adam's phone, messages Brooklyn has sent him recently. I'm not sharing this for drama. I'm sharing this so everyone understands why I've had to draw a line. This is no longer about hurt feelings. This is about intentional manipulation, division, and the complete disregard for someone else's dignity. Please read and reflect. I'm not asking for anyone to take sides. I just don't want to be misrepresented anymore. I wasn't expecting much beyond silence, but to my surprise, the response was stronger than I imagined. Megan called me less than 30 minutes after I sent the email. "Leah, this is insane. What was she thinking, sending those kinds of texts to your fiancé?" Aunt Valerie sent me a simple email. Just one sentence. "You've handled this with more grace than anyone else would have. I fully support you." Another relative who had stayed silent the entire time finally texted me. "I never thought Brooklyn was this bad. It's all clear now." As for my mom, take a guess. A missed call just before midnight, then a short text. "You've gone too far shaming your own sister like that. No matter what she did, you shouldn't expose her to the whole family." I read it, deleted it, and left it at that. Because I knew, in my mother's eyes, Brooklyn could stab me in the back, and if I screamed, I'd still be the one who overreacted. Our wedding day fell on an early March afternoon. The sun was gentle, the breeze crisp, just enough to tint my cheeks pink without needing blush. The garden behind the resort in the North Georgia hills was draped in lavender, and strings of lights strung across the old oak trees. Everything was exactly as we planned. Exactly as I had imagined throughout our 8 years together. I had just finished my makeup when Amanda, my maid of honor and best friend, stepped into the room with a worried look on her face. "Leah, we've got a problem." "Don't tell me the cake collapsed," I said, half joking, half dreading. Amanda swallowed hard, then said, "Worse. Brooklyn and your mom. They're at the gate." I froze. "What are they doing here?" "They're arguing with security. Your mom is crying, and Brooklyn, she's yelling that she's being thrown out of the family. A few guests overheard." I closed my eyes for a few seconds, then opened them, my voice frighteningly calm. "Get the venue manager. Tell them to keep them at the gate. If needed, call a car service and have them taken away." Amanda nodded and rushed out. I stood still, my hand gripping the edge of my wedding dress. Not long after, my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. I wasn't going to answer, but then I did. On the other end, my mom's voice trembled with anger. "Are you really going to hold your wedding and toss your mother and sister out like garbage?" I took a deep breath. "You chose Brooklyn's side, even when she harassed my fiancé. You don't have the right to ask me that. You'll regret this, Leah. Marriage isn't just dresses and flowers. One day you'll need your mother. But I may not be there anymore." I ended the call without a word, then placed the phone on the table like I was closing the final door inside myself. The ceremony began at 4 p.m. Adam waited under the floral arch, his eyes both nervous and warm. Our closest guests sat nearby, their smiles clear and genuine. People who stood by us not out of duty, but love. As the music played and I walked down the aisle, the soft golden sunlight felt like a quiet blessing. There was no noise, no sign of Brooklyn or my mother. I later learned Amanda had handled it firmly. When they begged to be let in because we're family, security refused. And when they wouldn't stop causing a scene, the venue arranged for a private car to escort them off the property. No shouting, no door slamming, but everyone who saw knew exactly who had crossed the line. The ceremony went perfectly, every detail intact. Adam's vows nearly made me choke up. Leah, you're not just my love. You're the one who taught me that peace isn't something we find. It's something we choose. And today, I choose to be by your side. Always. Everyone stood and applauded, and it felt like all the heaviness of the past few months dissolved into the music. After the ceremony, as I chatted with guests, Aunt Valerie came up and held my hand. You've done what no one in this family had the courage to do in 20 years. You broke the cycle of silence and endurance. I smiled, throat tight, knowing I didn't have to explain myself. The people who mattered understood. That night, under the glow of string lights, Adam leaned in and whispered, I know how strong you had to be today, but from now on, you don't have to do it alone. I rested my head on his shoulder, feeling a strange lightness. My mom may never accept me. Brooklyn may stay stuck in her loop of jealousy and blame, but I had stepped out of it, and I knew I was never going back. Adam and I returned home after a short honeymoon in Asheville. The storm had passed. I no longer checked my phone constantly. I stopped waiting for an apology from my mom or a gesture from Brooklyn. I knew they'd never do it, and I didn't need them to. Less than a week later, I got a call from my cousin Megan. Brooklyn and Aunt Annie just had a massive fight, and this time she lost it. What happened? Brooklyn moved back in after crashing the wedding failed, and ever since, she's been sulking at home, doing nothing but stalking your Facebook and posting cryptic status updates. I hadn't followed Brooklyn on social media since the wedding. I blocked all her accounts. But hearing Megan, I could picture every bitter post. So what triggered the fight? I asked. Megan lowered her voice. Brooklyn started blaming Aunt Annie. She said if her mom had stood her ground and kept her on the guest list, things would have turned out differently. Then she accused her of being a failure who didn't protect the daughter who needed her most. I closed my eyes. I could hear Brooklyn's voice in those words. Always the victim of her own story. Always betrayed, forgotten, wounded. Never once reflecting inward. Megan exhaled. Aunt Annie exploded. She yelled, I sacrificed everything for you, covered for you countless times, and now you blame me? Then what happened? She kicked her out that night, called an Uber, told her, live however you want, just don't come back. I sat in silence for a few seconds. Brooklyn did what she always does, blame. But this time, my mom had no one else to shift the blame to. With me out of the way, she had to face the truth. The daughter she spoiled turned on her. Where's Brooklyn now? I asked. Heard she's crashing at a friend's place, but who knows, you know Brooklyn. She'll build another story and find someone else to rescue her. I nodded, said nothing more. That night, I opened my phone, deleted every old message thread with my mom and Brooklyn. Then I went into my settings and blocked every last bit of contact, email, phone numbers, even the burner accounts they'd used to secretly view my stories. Adam walked out from the kitchen, wrapped his arms around me from behind. He didn't ask anything. He just rested his chin on my shoulder. I leaned into him and whispered, I'm okay now. We didn't have a fancy dinner. No candles. Just 2 bowls of warm mushroom soup and a jazz playlist humming from the corner speaker. In a dark room, and I thought, maybe this is what's worth keeping. Not the applause, not the validation from distant relatives, but peace in my heart, and the steady hand that never let go. My family had been broken for a long time. Now, they just couldn't pull me under with them anymore. And me, I'd finally chosen the family I belonged to. Leah's story is a powerful reminder that not every blood tie is worth preserving. When sacrifice becomes expected and love is used to manipulate, setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's essential to protect your worth. Leah didn't just choose happiness. She chose peace, truth, and a family built on mutual respect. In real life, the bravest choice isn't enduring. It's knowing when to let go. What do you think about Leah's decision and how her family fell apart? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow this channel for more heartfelt, honest, and eye-opening stories about the hidden struggles behind family life.